Welcome back to another edition of Getting Data Science Done, Command Line Tips. Today we are going to look at the problem of quickly filtering out one or more columns from a data set and perhaps doing a little bit of row selection. And we're going to use a utility called AWK from this suite of command line tools. So let's look at the man page for AWK just quickly. You can see effectively it's basically a utility that allows you to process a file line by line and apply a small program to that file. And the fundamental structure of that program is you can apply a pattern and then take an action for lines that meet the requirements of that pattern. Now, there's a really rich set of syntax for this particular programming language. We're only going to use a really small subset of that for solving this specific problem today. So let me just quit out of that, and let's have a quick look at the initial file we're going to take a look at. So here's a dummy data set. It is space delimited columnar data, and the reason for that is that the default expectation of AWK is that the data is space delimited. You can specify a new field separator, and I'm going to do that in the second part of this little mini tutorial. But let's first start by looking at what you can do with AWK. So I basically put my small program inside some quotes, and let's just take a single action, which is print, and apply it to this file, and you'll see it's effectively the same as cat. We're basically just printing out the contents of this file. Now, if I want to grab specific columns, I can use this $ syntax and then specify the columns numbered from 1 as the first column. So if I want that names column at position 2, I can just do print $2 as the AWK program, and that's what I extract. If I want to print out more than one column, I can specify them with a comma separation as follows. So printing out columns 2 and 3 like this, and you can see that's what I get. Now, if I wanted to do a little bit of filtering on that data, and so not necessarily grab all rows, I can use this simple syntax where I say, for example, only give me rows that contain the letter A, for example, and you'll see that this will now print out everything except for Phil here, because his is the only name that does not contain A. I can do the same thing for numbers, for example. So I might say, for example, let me only get the ones that have the number 4 in it. And you can see I'm getting Zara there. And you might be confused about Jen here, but if you look back up here, his identifier is his ID is number 4. So you've got to remember that this kind of generic pattern here is basically applied to all of the text by default in that particular row. Awesome. So let's clear this screen and come back. Now, often you'll have a data set that isn't space delimited. So for example, if we look at this other example file, you'll see it's exactly the same data set, but now it's comma delimited data. And if I run AWK on that, and let's just do the same thing as we did before, where we start by just printing out the whole file, you'll see that it does as we expect it to. But now if I wanted to grab just the first column in that data, and I just use the syntax we showed you before, you'll see I'm getting all of the data because it's expecting space delimitation by default. So in order to deal with comma separated data, I need to specify that field separator. So I can do it multiple ways. I can use this -F as the command line switch and then provide the field separator like this. And now I'm getting just column 1. Or alternatively, I can provide that after the program using this syntax, FS for field separator, and then has to be equals here where I provide the field separator, and that gives me the same thing. Of course, I can return to getting sort of columns 2 and 3 as I was doing before, and you can see that all works perfectly with comma delimited data as well as space delimited data. So I hope you find that useful. You can see that you can select and filter data without needing to sort of open a Python prompt or even opening a notebook. You can do that simply at the command line, writing your own bash scripts. It's a highly efficient and fast way to do this kind of simple selection on data sets. Thank you.